Hey guys, hey, want to make another video here. This one about R. Kelly. As you have heard, R. Kelly has been convicted again, and he was convicted for basically sex trafficking. And when you look at R. Kelly, he's an example of somebody who had the ability to do what he wanted to for a limited time, and he couldn't control himself. And so when you look at R. Kelly, let's talk about him. He was definitely a high value man in the sense. I know a lot of people don't want to put entertainers and sports athletes in that bracket, but let's just say for the sake of argument, he was somebody who can get women and when he wanted to. And he couldn't control himself because he wanted what he wanted. And he wanted it the way he wanted it. Now, here's the thing. When you don't control that sexual appetite as a man, it doesn't get better, right? And a lot of people think if they can do X, they'll satisfy their lust. What do I mean by X? Well, let's say, for example, you're a man and you lust and you say, man, if I could just have two women at the same time, I would be so happy. But the truth of the matter is when you get that, you're not going to be happy because the sexual appetite is like a fire. It is something that when it feeds on something, it just gets bigger. It doesn't get less. So lust never is satisfied. And so it just points out this very, very big fact. And it's something that we all got to recognize. And that is this: sexual discipline is one of the most important values that anybody can have. And a lack of sexual discipline will kill you. Now, you might say, hey, man, how does it kill you? But here's the thing. When you are a young man, a lack of sexual discipline will kill you. It will have you creating children outside of wedlock. It will create situations where your progeny will be at a disadvantage because of your lack of discipline. It will create situations where you are paying people you don't like or don't love to take care of your kids that you can't see. When you become a young man, your lack of sexual discipline will lead to a lack of energy as you devote all your time and energy at night into pornography. When you become married, you might say, well, I'm married. Now I can finally let go. But here's the thing. You can't let go because when you get into a sexual relationship, your lack of sexual discipline will mean that you will submit to somebody who will use your sexuality against you. Yes, you need to learn how to use control. When you get in a relationship, your lack of sexual discipline will lead to your relationships not being pure. You will not be able to reach the marriage day and say, I held out till here. After you get married, like I said, they can use your sexuality against you. And the truth be told, sexual experiences will not satisfy lust. Lust can't be satisfied. And that is one of the keys that modern day men have not recognized. Sexuality and lust are two different things. Everybody has sexual desires. Sexual desires are like food desires. It's a natural desire. It's not a bad desire. It is simply a desire. But when you get lust into the mix, lust is something that can never be satisfied no matter what you do. And so you can have sex with your wife, and afterwards you can want to look at pornography. And the truth of the matter is that I am saying these things because this is true. And these are things that as a man I've experienced. And it doesn't matter. If you do not control yourself, you will die. You will be killed by your lack of control. I've seen many men in the ministry, pastors, get killed by this desire because that desire is something that you think you can keep in a little box. You think you can keep it at night. You think you can keep it on your phone, but you can't keep it there. It's going to keep growing. It's a monster that is out of control. You thought you can control it, but it's going to keep growing. It was once a cute little pet. It is now a monster that's on the wild. So here's the thing. When you get older, and you may say, man, as an older man, my sexual desires will go down. But the truth of the matter is that we read stories every day of men who are touching kids, men who are touching women they shouldn't be touching, men who are saying comments they shouldn't be saying because they can't control their sexuality. We have stories every day of politicians getting in trouble because they had sex with a staffer. They had sex with this. And the truth of the matter is, if you are a person that in your mind, think to yourself, if I had power over women, I would do this. When you get that power, you will not be able to control yourself. So you will end up like the governor of New York. you will end up like R. Kelly. You will end up like Weinstein. Because the truth of the matter is, when you look at pornographic stories, all of them idolize Weinstein. You look at a pornographic story, oftentimes the story is you get power over a woman, you can make her do what you want. And that's a lot of men's fantasy. A lot of men have a fantasy of being in positions of power and using that power to get what they want. Being Bill Clinton, being Harvey Weinstein, being R. Kelly. But when you see how those men end up, maybe you should stop envying those men. So, hey, sexual discipline matters, and it matters throughout your whole life. Now, it matters to you too, ladies, but you guys are going to have an easier time controlling it. The thing you guys need to control is your attention, your desire for attention. But for men, it's sexual desire. That's a raging fire that you got to get under control. And the only one who can control that, honestly, is the Holy Spirit. So you got to cultivate your spiritual gifts, because if you don't, you cannot succeed.